Welcome to The Paradigm Shift on 4ZZZ 102.1, where we challenge the assumptions of our current society to resist depression and investigate alternative ways of living, for a world based on justice, solidarity and sustainability. Welcome to The Paradigm Shift on 4ZZZ 102.1 FM, your local community radio station. My name's Andy and I will be hanging out with you for the next hour. We are broadcasting on Jagera and Turrbal country here. And today on the show, we are going to be talking about the war happening in Palestine right now. It is in the news a bit, if you have been following it at all. And I think Triple Z's been doing quite a good job of trying to give voices to people affected by it as well. And I actually, not too long ago, a couple of months ago on the Paradigm Shift, we did a show on Palestine, but a lot has changed since that show. And don't we wish that we were able to chat with somebody about the significance of Dubka dancing to Palestinian people like I did that day. A lot has changed since then, and there's a lot more significant topics to talk about. But today, we will be hearing from Usama Nicola, who is a Palestinian Christian man. He lives in Bethlehem. You might have heard of that place. It's a famous city, and it is in the occupied Palestinian territory in the West Bank. And so, much like in the Christmas story where Joseph and Mary are forced to move by the Roman colonizer, told where to go, and then told there's no room at the inn and forced into uncomfortable conditions, the people of Bethlehem now are living under occupation of mass military imperial state and have their movements dictated and frequently are denied the comforts which might make their life a bit better, and which they see the Israeli settlers around them enjoying. We'll hear all about that from Usama. I had a long chat with him about all kinds of different things, and we talk a lot about how life has changed in the last 6 weeks of this war happening, and also about what hope for the future looks like for Palestinian people and what they would like to see people in the international community doing. So stick around. I think it's not every day that we get to hear from people on the ground in Palestine, and so I feel privileged to be able to bring you these voices. Probably next week it'll be the same. I've actually this week spoken to a couple of people in Palestine and Israel as well, and we won't fit it all in one show, but probably next week we'll be doing that as well. But for now, let's hear from Usama.
Hello everyone, I'm Usama Nicola from Bethlehem, Palestine. I'm a father of 3 children. I was born and raised up in Bethlehem. I do work as a tour guide, and I'm happy to be with you today.
Now, in Australia, when we think of Palestine, we often would think of Muslims, but you are a Christian who lives in the very significant Christian location of Bethlehem. Can you tell us what it's like living in this place that's so connected to your culture and your faith?
I'm really don't understand why when you think about West and when you think about Palestine, you think about Muslims or Arabs. because this is the place where Christianity started. This is the place where Jesus was born. This is where the Bible come, live if you come and visit this land, this country. So this is the land of the Bible. This is the land of the Christianity, and this is the land where, Christianity started. And from here, all over the world. Things has changed because our country has been under many, many, many empires, and many, powers would like to rule this part of the world because of its location. There's many colonizing and power reasons to control our country, and there has been always unstable situation. So for me, this is, it's my home, my history, my parents, my ancestors. According to the story of our family through our oral history, we know that our family has been living in Bethlehem since the late 5th century. So we have been here since so many years. And when you know more about the history of your country, you love it more. Despite all the challenges, leaving this part of the world for me personally and for my children is better and wiser. But, we decided to stay despite all the challenges, despite all the difficulties, because this place it means a lot for us to be here. We want to stay, take care of our parents. We want to stay because of the history. We want to stay because of the deep connection with the land and our faith.
Well, the 5th century, that's a long way to trace back your connection to that land.
That's true. We have documents through the church that goes back to almost 800 years about our family, the baptism, the marriages, the death, all of these records. That's what you can go back at least to 800 years about our presence and all these records through our church.
And now, is it difficult being a Christian in Palestine and in the occupied territories? How much do you think that the conflicts and the danger that comes there is because of religion?
I think it's difficult to be a Christian anywhere around the world because as a Christian, Jesus teaches us to be truth, to say the truth always, and to do the good things. And there is challenges for Christian anywhere around the world. Living here in this country, I don't see the conflict as a religious conflict. It's a political conflict. It's occupation. We as Palestinian living under Israeli military occupation that's violating our human rights and violating the international law. So as a Christian, I am, like other Palestinians who are not Christians, we face the same circumstances, we face the same reality, we face the same difficulties, and we suffer the same way from the occupation.
Can you give us a bit of a picture of what it's like, or what it was like until recently, living in the West Bank as you are under the Israeli occupation?
I'm 46 years old, and I never remember a good day. So there has been nice moments, but not too long. West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza Strip has been under Israeli military occupation since 1967. And since the first day of the occupation, the West Bank was under emergency regulation laws that put Palestinian under Israeli military laws, and later all the Israeli illegal settlers who live in the West Bank and East Jerusalem became under Israeli civil law. And this is where you might hear from some Israeli organization or international organization that Israel is an apartheid state, because we have been living under different sets of laws. So we as Palestinians in the West Bank live under Israeli military law that's, violate our rights and our human rights every single day. Any Palestinian is guilty until he proves the opposite. Israeli military can detain us up to 6 months, renewal to 5 years without any case against us. Palestinian children can be detained and arrested after he's 12 years old. The Israeli military deal with our children as adults after they are 16, not like Israeli civil law after they are 18. So there is a lot of details that people don't really understand. What does mean life under occupation? And if you resist in under any way, you are called a terrorist. So there is a lot of stereotypes, and there is a lot of misunderstanding. Many people really don't understand the history, the situation, and what we are passing under. So in the West Bank, we have almost 750,000 Israeli illegal settlers who control over directly more than 45% of the West Bank land, which is land controlled by local and regional council settlements. And these settlements are illegal by international law and Geneva Convention for and United Nations resolution. And these people control almost 95% of our water and control our roads. And so there is bypass roads that we can't use. So I'm talking about my country, my land, which is supposed to be a Palestinian state. So we can't travel freely. We can't enjoy the nature if we'd like to go and hike in some areas because it's close to settlements. And we don't have enough water, so water shortage every summer because what we receive is almost 74 liter per person per day instead of 120 liter per person per day. But the illegal settlers who live in the West Bank receive 300 plus liter per person per day. So there is a lot of difficulties, and you can name it from lack of resources to lack of freedom to lack of movement to lack of opportunities, and that's all because of mainly the occupation. There's other reasons, but mainly the occupation that make our life miserable and difficult. And as I told you, since 1967, the West Bank has been under Israeli military laws, which called emergency and regulation laws.
So that's what life is like in the West Bank. Can you give us a quick idea of what it would be like living in the Gaza Strip? And have you personally ever been able to travel to Gaza?
Unfortunately, I never been to Gaza. Gaza is a small, beautiful city. West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza Strip supposed to be the Palestinian state and supposed to be connected. So Gaza is a small area. It's half size of, Gaza district. Gaza district is half size of Bethlehem district. And when I'm talking about Bethlehem district, I only enjoy 13% of Bethlehem district. So 87% of Bethlehem district is off limit for us as Palestinian, and it's available for Israeli legal settlers. So Gaza in the last 15-16 years has been, kind of closed. Since 16 years, since 2007, has been, sieged by the Israeli occupation. Goods can come in, and out not easily. It's located in the coast, so fishermen can't fish freely. Thousands of fishermen has lose, their jobs because after 2007, after the siege, only fishermen can access 6 miles instead of 20 miles according to the agreement between PLO and Israel. and it's the most dense area. 75 or more of the population in Gaza are refugees. I don't know how much you know about Palestinian refugees, about the Palestinian Nakba in 1947-48. Where all these Palestinians were kicked out and forced to leave their villages or in what became Israel, because the United Nations has made a proposal, which is known as the United Nations Partition Plan 181 United Nations Resolution. When countries has voted for it, and then the day after the vote, the Jewish military different groups launch a war against the Palestinian villages and start to kick them out from their villages. So 75% of people who live in Gaza are refugees who has been living in a refugee camp that's established by the United Nations agency UNRWA since 1950 almost. So there is a very dense populated 9 refugee camps in Gaza Strip, and it's a very small area that has been suffered a lot because of the siege, not enough water, no electricity, no enough medicine. Many people has died because of the siege. They can't get the right medication or the right treatment. So it has been a very hard life, and people of Gaza are eager for living, so they are very creative. They have studied, they have worked hard, they have been doing a lot of creative things, whether through music, whether through art. In the past years, most of the students has teach online. They have been teaching Arabic courses online for many internationals, and so this is how many international people has good friends in Gaza. And so they have good education, very high education. They speak good English. Most of the young generation has went to schools and universities. They are eager to live a better life. They are eager to enjoy and live in freedom. But unfortunately, what is happening right now in Gaza is a real genocide and damaging everything beautiful there. And it became a big graveyard for children and women.
Yes, many people have seen on the news in Australia the terrible things that have happened in Gaza the last 6 weeks. But I wonder for you in the West Bank, in Bethlehem, how have things changed during the last 6 weeks of this war?
It has been hard even before the beginning of the war in the West Bank. The Israeli military raids never stopped in the West Bank. Since 40 days, we had maybe 170 Palestinians killed, 2,400 Palestinians arrested. So daily military raids that lasted for hours. Today, Nablus and Jenin in the Upper West Bank was raided by the military. Yesterday, Tulkarem. The day before, Bethlehem. So Jericho often. So there is Israeli military raids often to the West Bank. But what we notice is recently is the settler violence. There has been more settler violence. Some Palestinian communities has been evacuated. Roads has been closed. We are under full military closure. For example, I can't move out of Bethlehem. Even to some of the villages that's close to Bethlehem. Roads are closed, checkpoints are closed. Already we had, since many years, we had more than 705 obstacle of movement. But now we have maybe more than 1,000 obstacle of movement. So we can't move. It's very hard. There is very, crossing, for example, to Ramallah or to Jericho or to Hebron or other Palestinian city, we need to cross checkpoints, and that means that you might wait for hours, or it's closed, or you might be detained and tortured in one of these checkpoints. And, the way the soldiers are dealing is very terrible. The settler violence has been very high. All the Israelis are military. They have all guns, and the settler have been giving more guns, and sometimes they dressed like soldiers, like what happened 2 days ago, and they attacked one of the schools in South Hebron Hills in a village called Atwani. And so they do terrible things. I mean, settler violence has been more and more, and Israeli military raids has been more and more. Last week, the Israeli military raid our neighborhood at 11 a.m. and the raid ended up at almost 7 p.m. We couldn't pick our kids from school, So we asked a friend to take them to her home until we can leave our home, because we can't. So it was a very stressed day for us and for our kids. And almost 72 people were injured in that day because Israeli military random shooting. A man of his 52 maybe was killed, and another 2 or 3 were seriously injured. One of them is our neighbor. And the Israelis came to the house to arrest a young man, and they say he's in home, and his parents and his uncle and everyone tell him that he's not at home. They say, no, he's in home. So they search the home, they damage the home, they shoot inside the home, they even threw bombs inside the home, and then they left. And they say if he didn't surrender himself, we will damage the house, like bulldoze the house. And so the second day, I think he went and surrendered himself at one of the Israeli military bases. So it's ongoing aggression by the Israeli military in the West Bank.
Are people in the West Bank worried that what we're seeing right now in Gaza might happen there next?
If you follow the Israeli news, you will get more and more worried, especially when you listen to some of the Israeli government leaders. I don't know how much you know about the current government in Israel. It's the most radical government. Some of the ministers, the Ministry of Finance, say that, and this is actually 3 months ago, he say, like, Palestinians, we have 3 options, whether to be dead, or to leave, or to surrender to our will. And just 2 days ago, 2 Israeli leaders in Yesh Atid, Israeli political group, Danny Danon and Rambam Barak, they say that they ask the government to do a transfer for the Palestinian in the West Bank towards Jordan. And I don't know if you have heard it in your news, what the Minister of Heritage, Aminachi, Eliyahu, said about using a nuclear bomb, against Gaza earlier. And, you can read a good book for Ilan Pape, the Israeli historian, called Ethnic Cleansing, that he has been talking about. So it's an ongoing process. It didn't started 40 days or recent. It has been happening. And, Dichter talk about a new Nakba for Palestinian in 2023. So there is a lot of calls by Israeli leaders that's really frightening us. And, what is really most frightening is that all these settler groups that have guns that might do a massacre or attack villages or cities, and who is going to stop them? Who is going to protect us? That's the issue, is we don't feel that we are protected. We don't feel that we are safe. So this is why I have not been moving out of Bethlehem since almost 40 days now. And I love nature, I love hiking. This is for me kind of a healing. I can't be out of this city. I can't go and hike. I can't go to the west side, which is very beautiful. I can't go to the east side, which is a semi-desert. We can't enjoy our country. We have not been living a normal life, and our normal is not the normal. what we have been living through is never been normal.
The war that we've seen in the last 6 weeks and the scale of it, have they come as a surprise to people in Palestine? Was there hope that things were getting better? I mean, we also saw there were big protests by Israeli citizens against Netanyahu earlier this year. Did people feel it was getting better?
For us, we have been always tried to keep hope alive. We have always shows hope, and we have always think that things will be better. But to be frank with you, there has been no better day. It's worse and worse every single day. And there has been many wars against Gaza. There has been many attacks against Palestinians. Since the beginning of the year, before the 7th of October, more than 170 Palestinians were killed. So we know that the situation is very bad and very complicated. We could feel that, the best way for Netanyahu to unite the Israeli society and to stop all this demonstration is to go for war. And, people has felt that something will happen because, Netanyahu will want to stay in the government and want to, continue doing what he's willing to do. So in a way it was a shock, it was a surprise, but in the other hand, people were expecting something to happen, and but maybe not that bad, because what is happening and what has been happening is the worst ever.
Now, this is a big question, but I guess over the years we've heard different people talk about a two-state solution or a one-state solution. What do you think is required for a peaceful and free situation in Palestine?
If there is a will, there is a way. Unfortunately, the peace process has been killed long time ago. We had high expectation after Oslo Agreement, despite it's not the best, but there has been high expectation. But immediately after 1994, there has been an Israeli contribution against the peace process. And later there has been Palestinian contribution against the peace process. But who did start to kill the peace was the Israeli side. If you know about the massacre that happened by Baruch Goldstein in Ibrahimi Mosque in February 1994, this was a very quick response from a right-wing extremist Israeli side, against the peace process. In 1995, Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli prime minister, were killed by another right-wing extremist because he's willing to make peace with the Palestinian, and he's willing to withdraw from the West Bank, and a two-state solution will happen. So for the right-wing extremist, any leader in Israel who will decide to withdraw from the West Bank, he's a traitor to the Israelis, and he must be killed. So Palestinians are peace lovers. We want peace. Because we need it. We are missing freedom. We want dignity. We want freedom. We want justice. We want peace. Unfortunately, the double standard world, the double standards in the United Nations and Security Council is the reason why we are here today. And I think many people around the world don't really understand the issue. And it's an occupation that must end. And in this struggle, we have not been alone. There is many Israelis who would like to end the occupation, and they have been doing a lot of demonstration against the occupation. And there is a lot of Israeli organizations like Bethlehem, like ICAD, Israeli Committee Against Home Demolition, like Schorot, that really work hard and to end the occupation. And as Palestinian, we have tried many ways: civil disobedience and First Intifada, and many other ways to end the occupation. We went to the negotiation. The current The PLO has been always clear after the peace process that only negotiation and non-violent, and that's the only way. And the international community need to make pressure. As I told you, if there is a will, there is a way. Whether it's two-state solution or one democratic state solution. Unfortunately, most of the Israeli right wing don't want to go for two-state solution because they want to keep the West Bank. And they don't want to go to a one democratic state solution because they want Israel to be a Jewish state. Easily you can just go and Google the Israeli national law that has been upgraded in 2017, and you can see that according to their law, only Jewish people have the right of self-determination in this land. So again, that's what the finance minister Smotrich said just some months ago, that you Palestinians have three options: whether to leave, or to be dead, or to surrender to our will. We are not the problem. We are not the cause of this problem. It's the occupation. And this occupation must end. Okay? And anyone really care for Israel or love Israel, they must help Israel to end this occupation. Because this occupation is destroying the image of Israel, and people around the world can see what is the real face of the occupation. Without international pressure, we can't reach an end of the occupation. Without international pressure on Israel. So we have been trying many ways, and unfortunately, the radicals has win always. People who want to reach peace and make peace has been always attacked by the radical groups. But, we'll never give up. Peace is a must. And we hope that there will be leaders who will have a common vision, think together, and work together for a future of this country, a better future for this country.
Is there anything else that you would like to say to the people of Australia who might be listening?
I would like to tell the people of Australia that, you need to be pro-justice. And, you as a third party, you are not part of this conflict. You need to try to help both sides to reach a peaceful agreement. You need to work to protect the dignity of the Palestinian people. And you need to be pro your values, and you need to understand the reality. Not everything you see and hear in the media is right. Search for the truth, and if you know the truth will liberate you. And it's a very difficult situation, and again we alone can't end this ongoing injustice.
Okay, thanks very much, Usama, for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you, Andy, for this program and for helping our voice to be heard. And we hope that this current injustice will end soon, and then we can welcome again people from Australia and other parts of the world, because we are part of this global family and we need each other.
Yes, that's right. Thanks very much. We have been talking to Usama Nicola from on the ground in the West Bank in the city of Bethlehem. Very informative, and I think so valuable to talk to people who are living the occupation every day, and talk about what's been happening, not just in the last few weeks, although we are there getting stories about the last few weeks, about, bombs being thrown into people's houses because somebody who is wanted by the IDF hasn't surrendered themselves, or adults being told they can't leave their house while their kids are at school, they can't go and pick up their kids from school, but also just the day-to-day life of living in an occupation in one of the most militarized places in the world, in the occupied territories of Palestine. And that was, of course, long before the bombs started falling on Gaza. Now, there is a significant solidarity movement going on with Palestine around the world right now, and in Australia and Brisbane as well. And there's lots of different ways that people are trying to show solidarity, and lots of ways that you can. One way is to come along to the rallies. I think Justice for Palestine, Meanjin, Brisbane is planning on holding rallies every Sunday for, I don't know, the length of the bombardment, I guess. And so there'll be one on again this Sunday. I think it's 2 p.m. at King George Square. And also there's organising meetings, I think on Monday night, Justice for Palestine, Meanjin, if you want to get involved. And of course you can follow them on social media to get updates. Another group, one that I've been involved in for a long time, is Wage Peace, who are trying to do things more specifically targeted at weapons companies. Of course, most of the world's biggest weapons companies are involved somehow in the Israeli Defense Force because they're a very lucrative customer to get. One of the world's most highly armed militaries. Of course, Israel also is one of the world's biggest weapons exporters. And it's amazing, really, a state so founded on kind of militarism, and like Usama was saying there, it's not good for Israelis to living a constantly occupying force, a completely militarized society of compulsory military service for every Israeli person. So many people work manufacturing weapons, and it's not a good way to be for a state that's supposed to represent, some kind of religious values. But next week we will be talking to an Israeli actually about their solidarity with Palestine. But Wage Peace is another group that you can follow, and we'll keep doing things targeted at weapons companies, probably in light of Palestine. There have been actions both around the world and in Australia at ports trying to stop exports by Israeli companies, and it's very hard to know what weapons are being sent there, whether there is weapons in there because of the secrecy that the arms manufacturing industry operates under, and they can claim all kinds of layers of national security and things like that to not give out information which is in all of our interest to know. And so there is actually a lawsuit going on about the secrecy of Australia's weapons exports. And so a couple of Australian NGOs, I think, have taken the Australian government to court to try to find out what exactly is being sent to Israel, what is in the defence exports permits. Australia has issued 350 defence export permits to Israel since 2017, including 52 this year. But what is in them, we don't know. In fact, only that information was made available from some David Shoebridge, Greens defence spokesperson, asking some hard questions in Senate. And so there's a lawsuit currently to try to find out what is Australia exporting to Israel. And of course, the ongoing boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign has been going for many, many years, and that is trying to identify companies that are linked to the Israeli military occupation and use consumer pressure in other parts of the world to try to pressure those companies into pulling out of that military regime. And it's come under a lot of criticism over the years, of course. There's a lot of very staunch defenders of Israel in powerful positions. We've seen Peter Dutton in recent days, and other politicians, and certainly the figures prominent in the media, very pro-Israel. And the boycott, divestment, sanctions scheme has come under a lot of criticism. But then the question is, well, what else? What are people supposed to do? There's an occupation going on. The people being occupied are asking the international community for help. And of course, nobody wants to see violent responses like what happened on October 7th. What other avenues are there? And one of the traditional ways that has been done is consumer boycotts and government boycotts and things like that. And so I think that campaign, the boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign, will only continue to be more prominent. That's a bunch of updates. I think there are other things going on around the country to keep an eye on, and I did another interview during the week, which again you'll hear next week on the show, with somebody in Palestine, and they said that actually a lot of people in Palestine are very heartened by the international solidarity that they've seen in the last few weeks. And so who knows what will come of this, but certainly it is a very terrible situation right now for people who are living in the open air prison that is Gaza, or the militarized occupied zone that is the West Bank or East Jerusalem, the other Palestinian occupied territories. Like I said, we will be hearing more from people in Palestine next week, so make sure to tune in again then. Catch you later.